Students protest ICE. Iranians protest their government. More information on the Epstein files released. All this and more on this episode of Maizewire. I'm Paulina Noyar. We are starting off this broadcast with local news from January 30th. Over 1,000 students at the University of Michigan gathered at the Diag to protest against ICE. The protest, led by multiple student organizations, seen massive turnout and support within the campus community. The protest was in response to the brutal killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Attendees brought noisemakers, whistles, posters, and ice scrapers to raise awareness on the recent ICE presence in and surrounding Ann Arbor. The march was concluded at Liberty Plaza of Ann Arbor City Hall, where everyone gathered at this entrance. This location was used before in a previous protest when the city granted border security agents access to the building. This protest was made up of all people from around Ann Arbor, including students, local residents, and other advocacy groups. The Today Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie's 84-year-old mother went missing on February 1st after failing to attend church. President Trump reached out to offer support as authorities continue to investigate. The president called in shortly after an interview Savannah Guthrie gave on NBC Nightly News, assuring her family that federal resources were available as the search continues. Savannah Guthrie expressed gratitude for the president's call and the efforts of local and federal law enforcement. She said her family is devastated by the situation and emphasized the need for prayers as the investigation continues. Officials say law enforcement agencies are coordinating closely as they follow up on numerous tips. The Sheriff's Department believes Nancy Guthrie may have been taken overnight, with the investigators considering the possibility of abduction. Authorities report receiving hundreds of leads, but say there is no evidence the disappearance was targeted. As of Wednesday, the 4th, officials have not identified any suspect or persons of interest. Protesters in Iran erupted in late December, with thousands of Iranians gathering together to demand change to the country's political system. The authorities have responded with a deadly crackdown through unlawful force and an internet blackout. Massacres on protesters were carried out primarily on January 8th and 9th, when the death toll rose into thousands. These protests began after Iran's currency collapsed. This was not a one-cause beginning to these revolts, as Iranian citizens have been long upset with the government's mismanaged access to essential services and overall failure to uphold Iranian people's rights. Now, these protests have reached all 31 of Iran's provinces. Another reason for these outbreaks have been Iran's failure to mitigate environmental degradation, which has disproportionately impacted marginalized communities within Iran. Some examples of this degradation is deforestation, declining water reserves and soil health, and air pollution. With the signing of Epstein Transparency Act, millions of documents have come to light from the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. The evidence shows communication between many public figures, such as Elon Musk, with the documents detailing plans for Musk to visit Epstein's private island. The files also show that Trump's current U.S. Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, was planning to visit the island as well back in 2012. Additionally, the files show a history of communication between Epstein and Duke of York Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Arrangements were made to set him up with a 26-year-old Russian woman. This occurred directly after the conclusion of Epstein's house arrest in 2008, when he pled guilty of solicitation of prostitution and solicitation of prostitution with a minor. The FBI released a summary of unverified tips they have received about Trump's potential involvement with Epstein. On February 3rd, President Trump was quoted in reference to the Epstein files, stating, quote, "I think it's really time for the country to maybe get onto something else," stating that no evidence has come out about him being involved with Epstein or his operations. At the recent Grammy Awards, a number of music artists spoke about the current state of politics. Artists such as Billie Eilish, Joni Mitchell, Justin Bieber, and more wore pins that said "ICE out." Along with this stand, Olivia Dean, who won Best New Artist, dedicated her speech to immigrants, mentioning their bravery and that they deserve to be celebrated. Other mentions include Bad Bunny stating that, quote, "We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans." This speech from him comes just a week before he is headlining the Super Bowl halftime show, a decision from the NFL that many, including President Trump, have disapproved of. Regardless of this, Bad Bunny will be the first Latino man to headline the Super Bowl halftime show. That concludes this episode of Maizewire. I'm Paulina Noyar. We'll see you next week on Wolf TV Maizewire. And as always, follow us on Instagram at WolfTVUmish for more. Thanks for tuning in.